I just got done reading your Postman essay prompts, and I want to answer this question. How did we do? We made a few consistent mistakes. There are 4 specific things that, as a class, we could improve on. Here are our mistakes. You analyzed the books or the text in the prompt rather than actually answering the prompt, which was a persuasive prompt. You had to agree or disagree. Second mistake, you invested poorly, spending about a third of the page restating key elements from the prompt instead of simply stating your claim and moving on. Third mistake, you lack examples, specific, clear, vibrant examples. Fourth mistake, you forget the why part of your examples. I'm going to go through each of these in detail so you can understand a little bit better. First one, you analyze the books or the text instead of actually answering the prompt. There were 2 different reasons why you did that. The first reason is that you didn't read the prompt carefully. By that I mean you might have skimmed it, you might have thought about it, but you did not recognize that this was a persuasive essay. You interpreted the prompt to be a literary analysis essay where you needed to actually respond to the text itself. So, sometimes I could figure out that you missed that because I looked at your prompt and you didn't actively read anything. Sometimes I think you just got lost or you assumed it was a different type of prompt than it is. You need to be alert to the fact that there are persuasive prompts that often have a large body of text. So, first mistake on why you might have analyzed the text, you didn't read the prompt carefully. The other reason why sometimes we made this mistake was, well, you knew the books too well. You took umbrage, you were upset with how Postman classified the books. And so rather than responding to the prompt, which was to agree or disagree what type of world has come to be, you analyze the books. Now, I love that. I love that passion, but you didn't answer the prompt. So you need to pay attention to the prompt. You need to circle. You need to highlight the verbs in the prompt. All right? Now, sometimes the verbs are verbish words. Agree or disagree should have been circled, and you should have known this is a persuasive prompt, not a literary analysis prompt. And for you people who know the books too well, here's the thing. Standardized tests sometimes actually get you in trouble if you have background knowledge. You had to remember what your purpose was, and don't get carried away with that admirable passion. Now, our second typical mistake was investing poorly. You often spent about a third of your page restating the key elements in the prompt rather than stating your claim. Keep in mind that everyone who evaluates these prompts rereads and rereads and rereads the texts. You do not have to state what anyone in the text thought. Restatement is not a good use of your time. Another not good use of your time is having an attention getter. Now, I know you've been trained that for papers, but this is not a normal paper. You don't have time to revise. This is a sit-down on-demand test. Unless you've scored 7s and 8s on your practice prompts and therefore you're aiming high and you can reach for that 9, don't worry about an attention getter. Instead, state your claim. You only have so many minutes in this time period. You need to invest your time in what's going to give you the best bang for your buck, and that is evidence, examples. Concentrate on your argument, not on restating the prompt and not on getting attention. If you're going to think about this as an investment, consider this. There are 2 places that you should invest. The first one is your content. That's the woman with the post-it notes. Have ideas, examples, illustrations, and develop them. That is a significant investment that pays off for you. It does not pay off if you restate the prompt. Those aren't ideas. That is simply regurgitation. So if you're going to invest invest in ideas. If you look on the other side of the slide, though, you could also invest in style. Taking a minute or two to think of a parallel sentence, trying hard to have some alliteration, working in some anaphora, that might be worth your time. So, do not invest in restatement. Do not invest in an attention getter unless you're scoring highly already. Do invest in ideas. That means content. That means examples and illustrations, and do invest in style. So, poor investments was one of our mistakes. Let's look at the next. You lacked examples. Now, wait a minute. That sounds a lot like what I just said about being a poor investment. Many of you restated the prompt, but did not have examples. Specific, clear, vibrant examples. You often speak in generalities rather than specifics. Look at this picture. There's all the hills in the background. Don't just talk about the hills as a general thing. Name them. Talk about them. Make sure you can actually focus on one. Be specific. Same thing with the cattle who are grazing. Yes, you can throw them all out there, but in reality, there's each individual cow. Try to be specific, clear, and vibrant. Here's some examples. Do not say something like this. Everywhere I go, people are on their phones, texting or watching the screen. We are a nation of disconnects. If that's all the development you are giving me, you haven't made your argument vibrant. It's not specific. It's not clear. This is better. Last week I was at a restaurant observing a couple out for a night. Both had their phones at the table and would periodically pick them up to text and answer or see who called. If this couple cannot prioritize time together and instead allows a device to interrupt their intimacy, they allow the device to dictate to them rather than dictating to the device. Now, I want you to notice the difference. The first one's just a general thing. People are on their screens. Well, you know what? A lot of times it's great to be on your screen. I have to answer, I don't know, am I picking up this kid for soccer? I need to be on my screen. What are we having for supper? My husband texts. These are necessary things. Being on a screen is not necessarily bad. Instead, the second one is a clear, vibrant, specific example. If you are out to dinner with somebody you love, put your phone away. That is a much more clear, specific example. Not, our media is full of irrelevance. That's a general thing. That's like all the hills in the background, like all the cows. It's not specific. Here's something better. Our media becomes irrelevant because of its own pandering. During the Boston bombing, news channels were tripping over themselves to bring the most recent news, valuing speed over accuracy. Society and media's need for immediacy has made the news inaccurate and irrelevant. Now, that's specific, not our media in general, but specific to the Boston bombing. Think about this. If you're going to talk about irrelevant media, don't you have a million different specific examples you can talk about? For me, I'd talk about the Kardashian family. I really don't care. Or maybe I would talk about, the morning news shows, thinking I don't care about that either. I could talk about irrelevant information, but I would do so specifically. So, be specific in your examples. Now, you'll see that the last three mistakes tie together very much. If I'm going to talk about our fourth mistake, it's that you forgot the why part of your examples. Now, a lot of times that was because you weren't having specific or vibrant examples, and you weren't necessarily going deep into your content. You weren't investing well. So, here is a sample sentence from our prompt. We are so busy on our phones we don't have time to read a book. Once again, so what? That's not necessarily bad. I have lots of people who are on phones and they do so very productively. Now, instead, you have to get to the why part. We are so busy on our phones, we don't have time to read a book. And some of the books that are out there, specifically Wonder by R.J. Palacio, helps us understand empathy, helps us relate to people. If we don't take time to read a book and instead limit ourselves to 140 character sentences via Twitter, we often lose out on the human experience. Did you see what I did? It wasn't just that we're on the phones and don't have time to read a book. Books aren't inherently good or inherently bad. I have to make the why part. Why should you read? Because you learn empathy, because you understand the human experience. I answered the why. Here's another example. Cell phones and screens are the focus of our lives. Once again, that's not inherently good or inherently bad unless you get to the why. All right, so let me try this. Cell phones and screens are the focus of our lives. Often I will be at a child's soccer game and I see the parents, instead of watching the game and seeing their child win through the last second goal, I'll see them looking at their screens. If we are going to really connect with people, we need to put the phones away and look at what's in front of us. Stop taking the movie and actually watch your own life. The why is important there. It's not just the fact, because the fact is neither good nor bad till you develop the why. So here's my advice. You must actively read carefully. You must start with the prompt itself. Circle all the verbish words. Know if this is a literary analysis prompt or a persuasive prompt, and address it. Also, when you read the prompt, limit yourself to the prompt, even if your passion dictates elsewhere. Second piece of advice, dive in. State your claim. Go to it. Do not summarize, don't restate, don't do the normal intro unless you're scoring well. Include vibrant specifics. Support your point with evidence and illustrations, and when you have those vibrant specifics, develop the why and the how. I hope that if there's 2 words you associate with my class, it's why and how. So make sure in the prompt you do that. All right, so that's my advice following the Postman's one. Let's see if we can apply it going forward.